Hello everyone, welcome to Conquer Learning. I am Lakshmi Kushwaha, your educator for Human Resource Management and Industrial Relation. So continuing our series for Human Resource Development, we would be today studying HRD Culture and Climate. HRD means Human Resource Development, Culture and Climate. Every organization which wants to achieve a competitive advantage or which focuses on human resource development, this should create a culture and climate for successful human resource development. So, what is this culture and what is the climate? How they are interrelated to each other and what is the difference between them? Let's understand this. So, if I have to understand the culture, let's take an example. If I belong or I am in Hindu, I belong to Hindu culture. If I belong to Muslim culture, if I belong to Christianity, if I belong to Sikh, every culture has got its own shared value, belief, attitude, its own way of working. This shared values, belief, attitude actually guide how the person would be behaving. So I am an Hindu. So as per Hindu culture, we put a bindi on forehead. So as per the culture, belief of the culture, my behavior is what? To put a bindi on forehead. So culture is what? A system of shared belief and attitude that develop within an organization guides the behavior of its member. So now with respect to every organization, every other organization has got different culture. Google will have different way of working. IBM will have different way of working. Tata would have different way of working. Facebook have got different way of working. Tata are considered to be philanthropist in nature, a culture of philanthropist. So what is philanthropy? Philanthropy is love for mankind. It means the Tata group or the organization follows the belief, follows the culture which focuses on doing betterment for the society, betterment of the humankind. So, when you are having such belief, value, your behavior would be accordingly guided or accordingly you would be doing your actions. So, if I have to summarize, what do you mean by culture? The key words that you need to remember is a system of shared belief and attitude within an organization which guides the behavior of its member. Now moving to the climate. Always remember, culture creates the climate. Now what is climate? Climate are the policies, procedure, practices, actual working environment which is happening within the organization. So Tata Group is philanthropist, has the culture for the love for mankind or philanthropic in nature. Automatically it will create a climate within its organization which will support this culture. It will have the policies, it will have the practices, it would have the procedure and the working environment which will always focus on improving the welfare of the employees. So culture always create a climate. On basis of the culture only I would be planning doing my policies, procedure and the working environment. Now, when we try to understand in the terms of HRD culture and climate, specifically that culture which is dealing with the human resource development will be called as an HRD culture, and the climate which supports this culture, the practices policies of HR which supports HRD human resource development will called as an HRD climate. So what do you mean by HRD climate? It is the perception that employees have about the policies, procedure, practices and condition which exist in the working environment. Why perception? Here perception means something we see, something we hear, something we feel. So whatever employee, so whenever I enter into an organization, how would I understand that what kind of culture this organization is following? Because no organization on the first day itself will be able to make you understand that this is the culture we follow. it is through my perception, it is through my information which I get from my five sense organs by hearing, listening, feeling, that this is the way organization is working, this is the policy the organization is following, this is the procedure the organization is follow. So if I experience, if I say, see, my boss is very autocratic in nature, or organization conduct the training and development on a regular basis, what would I perceive? I would perceive that the organization is human resource development focused, or it is something which is having human resource development climate. Whereas if I observe there is no proper procedure, no importance given to the employee, so my perception would be that this organization just focuses on achieving its own goal. It does not helps, or it does not think about the employees. So anything which an employees perceive about the policies, procedure, practices would be called as in climate. So in climate, you need to remember policies, practices and conditions which is actually going on into the organization, right? So this is the definition for culture and the climate. तो सिंपल लैंग्वेज में कल्चर का मतलब होता है जो शेयर्ड वैल्यूज, जो थिंकिंग, जो वैल्यूज, जो बिलीफ सिस्टम एक ऑर्गेनाइजेशन में चलता है, वो कल्चर होता है. इस कल्चर से ही क्लाइमेट क्रिएट होता है. क्लाइमेट यानी अगर मैं बिलीव करती हूं, मेरी बिलीफ ये है कि पार्टिसिपेशन होना चाहिए वर्कर्स का, तो उसके अकॉर्डिंग मैं पॉलिसीज भी बनाऊंगी. मैं अलाउ करूंगी कि सजेशंस एम्प्लॉयज दें, उनको पार्टिसिपेशन अलाउ करूंगी, तो पॉलिसीज, प्रोसीजर उसी तरीके से क्रिएट होंगे, वो मेरा क्लाइमेट क्रिएट करेगा. नाउ एडगर सेचिन हैज गिवन 3 level model for the organization culture. These 3 level are very important. You need to remember them, the level in an hierarchy, because in exam hierarchy is also asked which is at which is uppermost level, which is lowermost level, and what does it mean. Match the following. So Edgar Sechin model of organization culture. So culture is formed in due course of time from past experiences and the practices. Do a culture can happen in one day? No, it's not possible. एक दिन में किसी चीज का कल्चर नहीं बनता. Every organization day by day over the time with its practices, with its policies, with its actions frame the culture. So with the past experiences and the practices it is following, the culture is created. According to Edgar Sechin, there are 3 levels of the culture in any of the organization culture. First is, uppermost is artifact. This artifact are easily visible to everyone. Then we have values which are below the artifact, also called as espoused values. Then we have assumed values. Usually these are hidden, which are assumed by the employees and taken for granted. This particular model is also called as iceberg model. Why? Because just like the iceberg, only the artifact, that is only the 1/3 portion of the culture is visible. Rest is not. So what are the artifact? Something in the organization that you see or hear. So the appearance, uniform, the system which is visible and you are able to hear will be called as an artifact. The rule says you need to come at 8 o'clock. This is visible. So that is your artifact. The rule says that employees need to wear the uniform. That is visible. It is called as artifact. It is visible that women are leaving the office early. That is artifact. Then comes your values. These are actually the reason why we are doing something. This is actually defines why organization is taking such actions or why organization is making such decisions. So as a girl, I don't go out after this or late night, because that's the value. That's the value or Indian culture, that we should not be late night. So values or espoused values are the reason why we are doing certain thing. It is also represented or called as cultural theater. Last one is your assumed values. These are hidden. These are related to your ethics, which actually help you to understand right way to do the things. हमें क्या करना चाहिए और कैसे सही तरीके से करना चाहिए. दिस इज द रीजन वाई आई एम डूइंग इट. दिस इज राइट thing or right way of doing it. This is also called as share ticket and it is usually taken for granted in the sense they are assumed, समझा जाता है. अब ये assumption सबके लिए अलग अलग हो सकती है. In the sense if there are two families, दो family है, एक family like ऐसा है कि वहां पे male domination है. इन दिस फैमिली देर आर किड्स और फैमिली मेंबर है और ये किड है जो ऑब्जर्व करता है दैट इट इज डोमिनेटेड बाय मेल, या जो मेल है फैमिली का हेड है वो एक मेल है और वो अपने नीचे लोगों को या अपने फैमिली मेंबर को डांटता है, ऑर्डर देता है. तो ये जो किड है, ये जो ऑब्जर्व करता है, ही बिलीव दिस इज करेक्ट, दिस इज हाउ द थिंग्स हैपन. For him it's okay to have the domination by the male. So for him the assumption is that dominating is the right way of doing the things. Usually this is taken as granted because this is not correct assumption sometimes. So it is taken for granted. Whereas agar ek bachcha whereas a kid is observing that men or female both are given equal importance in the family, he would learn the same thing. He would assume that this is right. This is what actually should happen in the family. So this is the three level or iceberg model of Edgar Sechin, consisting of the three levels of the culture. Now there is an octopic culture. In exam if you have a question who is associated with octopic culture, and there are two options, you have to select one, then you would be selecting Uday Parikh. Okay, so it is Uday Parikh. TV Rao is also associated with it, but the person who actually gave the culture is octopic or octopace culture. This culture is said to be an ideal culture for maintaining human resource development within the organization. Why? You need to remember the full form of this in the given sequence itself. Openness. Openness means keeping and transparency. Transparency means if I have given certain work, it should be clear that this is what expected from you and this is what you are going to do. This is the transparency when there is an openness or the freedom of communication. There is a feedback, suggestions taken up from the employees. Let's take example. An employee is there. He is supposed to achieve the target. But while giving him the targets, it was not clear. He said that you have to do good. Now, what does this good means? What is good? 1 is good, 10 is good, 100 is good. That's not clear. So, the employer should have a transparent environment where there is a freedom to communicate, a feedback from the employee and proper transparent information to be shared with an employee. Confrontation. If this employee is facing an issue, a problem, he has some grievance, or if there is any kind of problem occurring in the organization should comfort it, should face it and find the solutions to it, either through discussion, either through suggestion, either through workers' participation. So confrontation is very, very important if you want to develop your employees, if you want your organization to not to get stuck into that particular problem. Running away from the problem is not the solution. Trust. Good employee and employer relationship is completely based on trust. Now, how this good employee and employer relationship would be there? When there is a higher empathy. Empathy in the sense when employee and the employer both are able to understand each other's position. They are able to interrelate with each other. Then how this understanding would be there? By maintaining an confidentiality from both the sides. If employee discusses something with an employer which need not to be disclosed with other employees, the employer should make sure. And if the employer shares certain information with the employee, it's the responsibility of the employee to make sure that it is maintaining the confidentiality, and there should be simplified forms and procedure, not to you can say not too difficult to understand or not too complex in nature. Simplified procedures which are easy to understand for an employee give or build a trust among the employees. Authenticity. Now, what do you mean by authenticity? It is what I say and what I do matching the two things. If the supervisor or the manager gave that if you achieve your 50% target, you would be receiving the incentives as well. And while giving the salary, he did not give the incentive. So these two things are different. So the congruency, creating an congruency between what the person feels and says in order to have that good interpersonal communication is authenticity. Proactive. Organization need to be proactive in nature, means should take initiative, should come up with number of ideas. Planning should be proactive in nature. There should be always A and B plan. If A doesn't work, B should be there. So that should be a proactive in nature. Autonomy. Now, what is autonomy? When an employee is given an autonomy, it means he is having a freedom, a power to make the decisions related to his work. So, willingness of an employee to use his power without the fear is autonomy to an employee. It's very important for an organization to give a certain level of autonomy to an employee so that he can be initiative, so that he is free to use the power given to him. Collaboration. Employee and employer need to work together. Improved communication should be there. Collaboratively, employee and employer should make an alignment between the individual goals as well as the organizational goal. When they together collaboratively work, the organization would be able to achieve the goals. Finally, experimenting, that is innovation. Always ready to learn the things, accept the challenge, accept the uncertain situation. The more you experiment, the more you innovate. The more you innovate, the more alternatives you have. So these are the dimensions of the Octapace culture which you need to remember as it is in the order. Right? So this was a basic concept of HRD climate and culture. In next video, we would be studying different framework, how different authors have given different framework for the human resource development culture. Now, if you have liked this session, like it, share and subscribe to the channel. For the notes, this handwritten notes, you can join the Telegram group NET JRF HRM Learner. Any doubts, you can ask in the comment section. Thank you for this class. We would be continuing in next video.